Hey everybody, welcome to another Tuesday night. I am so excited to talk about tonight's topic. We're going to do a little Q&A. We're going to talk a little bit about conversions and scaling and what does that even mean? Because people say, I want to scale, and I don't really think most people know what that means. So we're going to get into it tonight. This is not really going to be a beginner conversation. So if you are someone who is interested in growing your business, you've already launched things, maybe you've done some webinars, maybe you have a couple thousand people on your list, this is going to be for you. We're going to talk about scaling and what that means, how to know when you're ready. All of that good stuff is happening tonight on the Wellness Business Hub. I'm Lori Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching live, hello. And if you're watching on the replay, what's up? At any point, if you guys have questions, please do put them into the chat. So we're talking about scaling. Why? Because Sarah, and I'm actually going to tag her in this, because Sarah Best, this is for you. Sarah asked me about this upcoming event that we have. An online one-day workshop called Launch It Like a Boss. And she asked me if I'm going to be talking about beginner stuff or if she should be joining because she is ready to scale and she's done previous launches and they've all been super successful and she is ready to scale. So I love that question because I thought, do people know what scaling is? Do they really understand, what it means to scale? Because to me, the long and the short of it is, and I feel like I'm kind of like cheaping out on you guys, we're going to go into detail, we're going to talk numbers, is scaling just means more leads. Like you cannot scale your business, you cannot scale your practice, you cannot scale anything until you have a bigger lead pool, because scaling means more clients. How do you get more clients? You need more leads, right? And so we're going backwards. So tonight I'm going to ask you some questions so that you can gauge for yourself whether or not you're ready to scale. And for those of you in this group, you might be ready, or you might want to listen to this and take notes of the things that I want you to track so that as you do your first, second, third, fourth, fifth launch, you can track your numbers so that you know how much money to reinvest into Facebook ads, and you can start to really think of it like a legitimate business, right? Legitimate businesses, not that you're not legit, but I don't know another word to use. People with business backgrounds and expertise, that's what I'll say. We're all legit. People who have a background in business, they know to invest a percentage of their profit or revenue back into their business no matter what they make. People who are starting up businesses know that they're not going to break even within the first year, maybe within the second, maybe within the third, right? They're not going to start earning a profit until X years. They've mapped this out. They understand. Now, that's very different for us because we go into this thinking, I need to make money now. We feel the pressure, right? We feel the pressure of needing to make money now. And I totally get that. It's not realistic to, finish school and then immediately assume that you're going to start making a profit because you're starting a business. And that usually doesn't happen quickly. It can happen, but not as quickly as we imagine it to be. And so when Sarah asked me the question about scaling, which was a really good question, I thought to myself, I've never really spoken about scaling before because I know that the majority of my audience are not ready for it. But there are a bunch of you that are ready for it. You are ready to invest in Facebook ads. You are ready. You've had 50 people, 75 people, 100 people go through your program. If that's the case, then yes, you are ready. So let's dive in. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. This is something that you probably want to bookmark and come back to. So scaling, okay? scaling, like I said, scaling to me is just more leads. That's all it is. Scaling to me is just more leads. So more leads, I'm looking over here because this is where my notes are. More leads, more email subscribers mean more people are reading your content. So the more leads you get, the more email subscribers you get, the bigger your open rates are, more people are reading your emails, more people are clicking from your email over to the sales page, more people are buying. It's a numbers game. Scaling is a conversion game, right? What is a conversion? A conversion is how many people, there's many ways you can measure conversion, but basically it's a measurement of a response. So how many people opened your emails and clicked through to your sales page? That is called a click-through rate, right? That is kind of like a conversion. They're converting, a conversion would, I guess, equal a buyer, right? But you want to know how many people open your emails and how many people click through to the sales page. Then you want to know how many people hit your sales page and how many people buy. That's a conversion. How many people hit the sales page and how many of those people are converted into clients, right? And you can track that if you're using ClickFunnels, if you're using WordPress, if you're using Lead Pages. They have tracking, like they show you how many people hit the sales page. Now it could be repeat people hitting the sales page, so it's not necessarily super duper accurate, but you want to be able to track how many people hit the sales page and how many people buy. You need to know the conversion percentage. I'll give you an example. I know, because I've launched the Wellness Business Academy, if I have 1,500 people in my funnel, which is usually 15 to 2,000 people, right? I know approximately that I'm going to make between 75 and 100 sales, right? I know this because I've done it 6 times now, right? And I budget the amount of Facebook ad money to buy me to acquire around 2,000 leads at $5 a lead, approximately, right? And I know that that's how many people I have in my funnel. I know how many people hit the sales page and I know how many people buy. So I can now invest probably double what I've used to invest to buy 4,000 leads. It's safe to assume that if I have 4,000 leads, I'll double my sales because those numbers have been consistent all 6 times that I've launched, right? And so the price point is about $1,500 and we do about 75 to 100 sales each and every time I launch, right? So I now know, and I'm going to do some silly math for you guys tonight. I'm not even going to attempt to try and do it in my head. Right, so I spend, let's say, $10,000 on Facebook ads. I know that's such simple math and I'm kind of embarrassed, but I'm tired. I spend $10,000 and I make over 6 figures. Why wouldn't I then spend $20,000 or $30,000, let's just say, to double or triple my sales, right? I can do that if I have obviously the cash flow to do that. That's, question number 2. Do I have the cash flow to actually put out $30,000 for Facebook ads? Is that scary? You betcha. That is terrifying to me. $10,000 I can handle, right? 15 I can handle. 30 is insane. But if I want to scale, that's what I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to triple down on my Facebook ads budget because there is no other way at this point for me to acquire 4,000 to 6,000 leads in a short period of time other than purchasing them, right? Buying traffic. There's no way for me to do it. So here's the questions that I want you to answer if you're thinking about scaling, okay? What is your actual sales goal? How much money do you want to make, right? When I go into a launch, we have a goal, right? We have a low goal, a medium goal, and a high goal. And my medium goal is to make between 75 and 100 sales, which we typically always hit, right? So what is your sales goal? What are your sales from previous launches? You need to know this, right? I would not recommend investing heavily in Facebook ads if you've never launched before, right? It's one thing to invest, $5 a day to grow your email list, but it's quite another to be throwing down like thousands of dollars to send traffic to a sales page that you've never tested, right? That is not a smart strategy at all. So what are your numbers from your last launch, right? You need to know that. If you made 8 sales and that was $1,500, then you should be taking $750 of those dollars and putting it back into growing your email list, not prior to launching, right? You should be taking half the money and dumping it back in, not putting it all in your pocket, right? Dumping or paying bills, dumping it back into Facebook ads 2 to 3 months before you go and plan launch so that you have time to acquire those leads and nurture them prior to launching. That's another way to scale. So, what were your sales from the last launches? And what is your sales goal? What would make you happy, right? What would make you happy if you had 20 sales or 50 sales, right? You need to know what would make you happy so that we can plan your marketing budget, because in order to scale, you're going to need to invest in Facebook ads. There's no sort of ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to need to invest in Facebook ads. So you want to know what your revenue was and what the profit was from your last couple of launches. And I would say that you should put at least 50 people through your program before you go and heavily invest in like tech support and scaling, because it's doing even like a webinar. It's a whole nother thing, right? Especially now with Facebook Live, like what I'm doing, you don't need necessarily to do webinars. Jen Pike just had a very successful launch, and she did a lot of Facebook Lives, and she used those as webinars, basically, because her people are on Facebook, right? And so she had a very successful launch that she can then scale, right? So next thing that you need to understand in order to scale is how many people have gone through your sales funnel and how many people have purchased. These two numbers are probably the most important, because you need to know your conversion rate, right? So the reason you need to know your conversion rate is because at scale, that conversion rate should hold. So then you won't feel as scared to invest X amount of dollars into Facebook ads, because if let's say you had 1,000 people in your funnel and 10 people bought, right? That's fine. We just need to know that, right? And if your program was $1,000, that's $10,000. So it's safe to say that if you have 2,000 people in your funnel, 20 people will buy, right? So if 20 people buy at $1,000, that's $20,000, right? If you need to spend $5, right, to acquire those extra 1,000 leads, that's $5,000. Are you going to spend $5,000 to make 20? I should hope so, right? I spend $10,000 to make about 150, right? And at this point, I'll probably spend 20 to make 300, right? The numbers, if it's $5,000 to make 20, yeah, I would. But you can't feel comfortable doing that until you know your numbers, until you've tracked these metrics, right? So when I use the word legit before, these are the things that if you're intentional about growing your business, if you're intentional about putting more people into your programs, these are the things that behind the scenes you need to be tracking. How many people are in your funnel? Meaning, how many people are getting the emails that are promoting the program? Maybe you've segmented your emails based on a lead magnet. So like you've put out a lead magnet, and the people who are interested in that specific lead magnet correlate to the program offer, and you've segmented you've segmented them away, or you're sending sales emails to your whole list. So either, it doesn't matter, it's just you need to know how many people are in that particular funnel, meaning how many people are getting those sales emails and then how many people buy, right? So that you can really understand your numbers, right? How many people are getting the emails, how many people are opening, how many people are clicking through. Let's say that you have 1,000 people on your list and your open rate is 20%, 200, which is normal, right? That's a normal percentage for an open rate, 15 to 20%. So 200 people, right? 200 people are opening those emails. And what if only a click-through rate's maybe 30%? So what's 30%? Let's just say, I'm just spitballing here, of 30% of 200 is 60. So you only have about, out of 1,000 people on your list, you have 60 people hitting your sales page. That's not a lot, right? But it doesn't matter. We just need to know that, because as logic would have it, if you have 2,000 people on your list, 400 people are opening your emails and 120 of them are clicking through, right? No, 20% is normal, don't worry. I mean, if you have a smaller list, you want it a little bit higher, but as your list grows, like aim for 20%, that's good. But if you have a smaller list, this is where the opportunity is to really nurture that list. So you want to try and get your email rates a little bit open. So try changing around your subject lines to make them more emotional, more curiosity, more provoking, and see if your open rates open more. More people open your emails. So I'm telling you these numbers, like 1,000 people on your list, your open rate's 20%. Your open rate is 20%. That means 200 people are reading your emails. 30% of those people click through, right? That's 60 people, right? And then if 60 people and your program converts at 10%, that's 6 buyers. That's 6 buyers. This is why you need to grow your email list, people, right? This is why you need to continuously nurture them. This is why you need to have a variety of marketing tactics, because maybe some people didn't read the emails, but some people are seeing the Facebook post or the Instagram post or your Facebook Live, right? So scaling is not only just acquiring more leads, but it's also planning a bigger launch, right? On all platforms. Maybe you've just done email up until now because it takes a lot of energy to plan a launch and you have to create a ton of content and all of that stuff. Well, maybe now you're going to start 4 months in advance and you're going to plan out all the content and you're going to start a lot further than you would, so that you can actually, go full out on all the platforms. So in terms of scaling, you need to know those conversions. How many people are in your funnel and how many people purchased, right? How many people bought? That's a conversion, right? Then you can say, okay, do I have money for Facebook ads, right? Based on that, based on the fact that we had 1,000 people in the funnel, right? That we had 1,000 people in the funnel, we had 200 people opening the emails, we had 60 people click through, and it converted at 10%, that's 6. So if your program was $1,000 or whatever your program is, obviously if your program is at $49, you're not going to be making enough money. You need to get more people into your program. But if your program is, let's say, $1,000, you just made $6,000. I would take half of that money and put it into Facebook ads, right? So that you can grow your list for the next time, right? That's how you scale, is by investing back into paid advertising, and also, I would say, collaborating with other people who have your same clientele. That can be very, very helpful as well. And also hitting all the channels, right? Are you doing Facebook Lives? Are you showing up consistently in social media so that people see your face all the time and want to know what you're up to and are consuming your content, right? Jerry says, so early days, it makes sense to reinvest those 6 buyers into Facebook marketing in order to build the list. Yes. Yeah, totally. Absolutely, right? Even for me, like when I'm saying these numbers out loud to you in full transparency, I'm thinking, you're an idiot, man. Why are you not investing more money in Facebook ads? Because it's scary. And that's why I'm literally the voice inside my head as I am talking to you is going, what is wrong with you? You know your conversions. Why are you not spending $25,000 every launch on Facebook ads? I don't know, because it's scary, and probably now I will, but that's just the way that it is. Okay, I recently learned how to work that formula backwards to figure out how much I'm able to spend on ads. Game changer. Totally. I just approximate about $5. So if you know that your program is $100, right, and you're going to make 10 sales, that's $1,000, right? And you then get to decide what you're comfortable with in terms of putting that money back into Facebook ads. But some people can get leads less than $5, but I always like to highball it because I have to spend more than $5 on leads, like mine are around $7. It is scary, totally. I just want to validate that for you. Like, I have cash flow. It's not like I don't have cash flow, but even just to say out loud, like, that's a lot of money, right? Like, what if it doesn't work? But I know that it does, so I have to trust in the conversions. You can only do that when you know your numbers. Like, I would never say to somebody who hasn't run a launch, I've done the same launch 6 times, right? And the numbers are the same every time. It's super consistent. So in the case of Sarah, I don't want to say to her, you're ready to scale. I want to know her numbers, right? I want to know exactly what she's done in her launches, if she's just used email, if she's ever done webinars and sold off webinars, right? I have a 10 to 12% conversion rate on my launch webinars. I know this, right? I did a webinar today and I had a 10% conversion rate. It's just, actually I had a little bit more, but like usually webinars converted around 10 to 12%, right? The trick for webinars is getting the webinar registrants to actually show up. The more people that show up, the more people buy. It's the same thing. The more people that hit your sales page, the more they buy if you have a good offer, right? There's all these variables. Know your numbers, yeah. And so many holistic women, I think, more than men, are scared to talk like this. Like, you need to know your numbers. Like, my good friend Stephanie Joanne and I sit all day. She knows her numbers inside and out. It's super impressive. But if you're going to scale, then you need to know your numbers. I feel like I would be the worst mentor in the world if I was like, oh yeah, just dump money into Facebook ads. No. To build your list, you have to make an initial investment that you might not get an ROI on for 6 months, right? There's a difference between investing in acquiring leads to then launch at the beginning, because we don't know what the results are going to be, and you have to be okay with almost like losing money, right? But if we're talking about legit, like, I've run this launch 5 times, these are the numbers, I've had 1,000 people in my email funnel, I've had 25 buyers every time, between 25 and 30 buyers every time at $500. All right, we can totally work with that. Like, we know this, right? We can work with those numbers. So that's what I really want to say about scaling is, please don't do it. Really, this is a PSA. Please do not think of scaling until you know your numbers. There is a difference between investing money in Facebook ads when you're literally starting to acquire leads to grow your email list. You probably will not see an ROI on that, maybe ever. But if you're going to launch, like, I don't know what the ROI is. Actually, I shouldn't say that, because you're going to launch sometime. I don't know what the ROI is going to be on that, right? It's only after you've repeatedly launched that we can then start to track, right? So run your launch, put 50 people through your program, right? Then we can talk about scaling. Let's talk about retention then, because a lost lead is the equivalent of a loss of ROI. You're right. The cost of effort to retain. How much do you invest in retention and nurturing the lead? Everything. It's so much easier to create new products and services for your current, I'm going to call them customers, because it's just, we're talking sort of very businessy right now. They're clients. Yes, we know that. But they're in your world. Oh, Sarah's here. She can maybe answer some questions. They're in your world, right? They're in your world. They're your clients. They're your customers, whatever you want to call them. It is much easier to create programs for previous clients than it is to acquire new ones. So retention. The way to retain people is to love them up, is to get on Facebook Live once, twice, 3 times a week and talk to your people. The way to retain your people is to email them 1, 2, or 3 times a week, sometimes with like just heartfelt, inspiring content. Sometimes you teach them, sometimes you promote shit, right? That's the way to retain it. The way to retain it is to be absolutely honest, vulnerable, and consistent, right? Today in the webinar, I'll give you an example. I feel like I'm sort of veering, but it's important. In the webinar that I did today on email marketing, right? And I said, oh, do I have the slide open? I want to read the slide because it was such a good, I found this quote. Just give me a second because I think it totally makes sense right here. Okay. Content builds relationships. Relationships are built on trust. Trust drives revenue. You want to know how to keep your people? Don't break their trust. Period. Content builds relationships. Be consistent in your content publication. Teach, right? Teach. Every Tuesday, 9 p.m. I did it in the wrong page today, but I'm still here, right? Relationships are built on trust. Trust drives revenue. So if I have a lead unsubscribe, what do you do to re-engage? I don't. So it's funny, like I used to have this person working for me and she spent so much time creating this whole like re-engagement sequence because I have a lot of people who unsubscribe, especially during launches, like a lot. And fine, go, see you, peace, bye. And so she created this whole like re-engagement thing. And I was like, I don't want to re-engage people who don't want to be in my world. Like, why do I want that? If they've gone to, if they've given me their trust and I haven't in some way fulfilled that promise to them, I want them to leave. I'm not going to waste any time or energy on trying to re-engage unsubscribes. At some point, either I'm going to say something or do something that's going to pique their interest and they're going to come back, or they're gone, and so be it. Go find somebody else who resonates. Please, I wish you nothing but love and success, right? I am not the girl for you. I am not the person to emulate and follow. They might be my ICA, right? They might be exactly my ICA, but for some reason or another, they're gone, and that's okay. So do not spend any time or energy, I think, my opinion, on engaging people who have said, I don't want to hear from you anymore. Let them come back to you. The way to come back to you is produce awesome freaking content all the time. Be consistent, right? If you're showing up in their news feeds all the time, I guarantee you at some point, they're going to come back to you, right? They're going to come back to you. So I wouldn't worry about that. 80-20 rule. Yeah. A lot, like I think it's different for me because I do a lot more like businessy stuff, obviously. And so like half is business and half is, inspiration. But at some point, like, don't you feel too, like, aren't you just tired of hearing from the same people over and over and over again? Like, sometimes I just unsubscribe because I'm like, oh, I'm just sick of you. It's not that their content sucks or anything. It's just like, I don't want to watch you anymore. I want to change the channel. I want to go hear from somebody else, right? And we all have that, right? We all have that, and there's nothing wrong with that. So Sarah, we just did a whole, probably half an hour on scaling just for you. So I hope that you get a chance to watch the replay. But if you're still on live and you feel comfortable sharing, are you okay to share your numbers so that we can use like a real example? So the premise is, how do you know when you're ready to scale? And what I was saying was that until you know your numbers, until you know how many people are in your funnel, and how many people purchased consistently. So you said you've done a couple of launches consistently. Then we can say, okay, this is how much you should budget. These are the numbers you can expect. It's your conversion rate, right? Whether you're going to do a webinar or a challenge or things like that. Oop, I just swiped left. Okay. So yeah, watch the replay. And if you feel so inclined to like share some numbers, maybe do it in the comments after you've watched the replay, just to give you a bit more substance to what we were talking about tonight, because what you asked me was a really good question. So I really appreciate it, because I think that there's a lot of people who are in your position, who are ready to sort of play at a bigger game. And what I was saying was that would require the addition of Facebook ads and building your email list, because it's just really, scaling is just a numbers game. And a numbers game, and I would also say like a pre-planning game, right? So one thing that I didn't really talk about is like, if you want to scale, your conversion rate is low, but I'll watch and happy to share numbers. Amazing. So in terms of scaling for a launch, what that means is planning all of the content way ahead of time, so that you're basically in what I like to call like pre-launch mode, where you're publishing content all around the problem solution, or the problem really, for like a month prior to launching, so that you're acquiring leads and you're nurturing the shit out of those leads with content, right? Content builds relationships. Relationships are built on trust. So if you're spending money like a month or two before your launch in Facebook ads to drive cold traffic to lead magnets, you need to have a content strategy in place before you even start that, so that these leads are getting really warm to you, who you are, what you do, how you help, testimonials, Facebook Lives, Q&A, like live, like really interaction, like just really sharing yourself and sharing all your good content, so that when it comes time to launch, they're like, yes, give it to me. I'm so ready. I want this. I've been waiting. You've gotten them super excited. So that also is scaling, right? The acquirement of leads while you're producing amazing, edutaining content, and then you go into your launch with already like your pre-written emails and all your social media and the live streams and the webinars that you're going to do during your open cart period. So scaling isn't just as simple as, buying Facebook ads. There is an entire plan that needs to happen. And I would think for myself, as I said before, like I'm hearing myself share my own numbers and thinking, you idiot, why don't you spend more money on Facebook ads? And to be honest, it's because I don't plan far enough in advance. So now that I'm hearing myself, I'm like, all right, like maybe I will open the Wellness Business Academy or launch a new program in, June, I won't have enough time. If I do anything in June, it'll be something small. But in October, that will give me the entire summer to like plan this launch, to plan this launch and, basically see how it goes. So it's planning, and it's also having the budget to buy Facebook ads. What is an ideal conversion rate? I know 100% is ideal. And the other thing I want to say is, when you're scaling, make sure that you have a customer service system set up. Because if you're used to only having 10 clients and all of a sudden you have 50, that's 50 people emailing you saying, this link doesn't work and I can't get access to this. And where's the Facebook Live and what's a Facebook group? And I don't like Facebook. And can I talk to you on the phone? And I thought I was supposed to receive stuff in the mail. Like, you have to be prepared from a customer service perspective as well, in addition to just like your everyday business. Because if you double, triple, quadruple, whatever comes after that, and you don't have customer service ready, I can tell you that for the first week, you're going to be drowning in customer service emails. An ideal conversion rate. So it depends, really. I mean, there's conversion rates for all different things. Like if you're talking about a webinar, I would say 10 to 12% is ideal. If you're talking about cold traffic to a sales page, it's 1%. If you're talking about warm traffic to a sales page, it could be between 5 and 10%, right? It just depends on what you're talking about. So Sarah says, oh God, that's happening to me right now from the last launch that just ended. It's crazy. Yeah. So that's one thing that most people don't think about is the infrastructure that you need to scale. So 2 years ago, I was at this point where I was like, all right, so either I just like stay me, and keep it, at around the 6-figure mark, or I need to seriously hire people and start delegating and having a team around me. And I would not be able to be doing the scale of sales and all of what I'm doing now on my own. It's actually, I would die. It's not possible. And so part of the revenue from your programs needs to go into hiring someone part-time to help you answer those emails, because they are a drain. They're a drain on your energy. And you want to answer them with the most compassion and love you can humanly give someone, but you can't do that if you're answering emails at 9 o'clock at night, annoyed because someone can't download a PDF. Right? Like you want to poke your eyeballs out. That's the truth of it. And you can't, because here's this amazing person who invested in you, who's seriously pissed because they don't have the, correct version of Adobe, and they want a refund. And you're like, really? What the fuck? Really? It's a PDF, man. So, you can't be doing at some point, and that was like my reaction to most people, which is why I don't do customer service. I stopped doing customer service. Like that was almost the first thing other than a tech person that I hired out, because I am not patient enough, and I know my strengths, and that's not one of them. So being ready to scale, like having customer service, having someone there to help you answer those questions, so you're not, doing it at 4 a.m. or 9 p.m. when you're super tired. So there's a lot of elements to growing your business, which is scaling, that aren't always talked about. And so if you guys actually have questions about, how to actually build a team and grow your business, like please ask them. Like I've done it. I'm in the process of doing it. At any given point, on my real team, there's 5 plus me. And then I work with, at any given time, 3 or 4 contractors. So please ask, because that's part of growing. Even if you don't necessarily have the money to pay someone, you can find the money to pay someone for 3 hours of time a week at $20 an hour, right? It is worth it for them to go into your customer service email for 1 hour every other day and answer the stinking emails so that you don't have to. Do you hire someone for Facebook advertising? It seems this is pretty specialized. I do. I've learned how to do it myself, but honestly, Facebook ads is infuriating, to say the least. And I don't want to, my time is best spent creating content, marketing, selling, and coaching my clients. That's where my time is spent. That's what brings in the revenue. And if I don't create content, I break trust, right? And I strongly feel that. Facebook, yes, I hire, Ziggy Media actually does Facebook ads. So if you want to get in contact with them, you can just tag Joey in a Facebook post, and they can give you some quotes. I would strongly recommend you outsource your Facebook ads to someone who has a proven track record. So there's people on Facebook right now who are like, oh my God, I just got 2,000 ROI, 2,000% ROI. They're playing with $1 million budget. Like, yeah, of course, right? So you want to work with people who work with small startups so that they can optimize your $10 a day budget, right? There's a big difference. So Ziggy Media does it. I highly recommend them. They basically run the entire tech part of my business. And I would be lost without them. So you can just tag Joey Abenstein just in one of the posts if you want. So Upwork. Okay. So where do you find people? To be honest, the people that work for me that are in my core team have come from my community. So you might have someone who's done one of your programs, like a mom who wants to make a couple bucks, stay at home, who can be taught the tech savvy things. Like as an example, Michelle Waith is a nutritionist. She's studying to become like a clinical, functional, superhuman smarty pants. And she runs customer service. She learned all of the things, right? She learned all of the things. It's all learnable. So I would actually start by having people who've gone through your programs because they know the material. That's one of the most important things. Like, yes, you can hire, a virtual assistant internationally from like the Philippines or India, whatever, but they can't answer program content questions, which I find is the most challenging because those are the personal responses that you feel like only you can give. That's not true. So maybe put out a job advertisement in your community to say, hey, I'm looking to hire someone, to start 3 hours a week to help me in customer service, answering questions and stuff. And you can teach them what to do when someone can't download their PDFs. Like, you can write out responses, and then you can also tell that person, hey, you know what? You can go and Google that, right? Like, if somebody says, for example, here's a perfect example. Like, if you give a zip files cannot be downloaded to tablets or iPhones or like non-desktop things, right? They can go Google, apps that they can use on their phone and whatever. People are smart, so you just have to sort of give them the training and let them, find their own way to answer the questions. But that's the first place that I would start. The second place that I would start is there's so many freelance VA groups in Facebook. I would go there. Upwork is great. I've hired 2 amazing virtual assistants from Upwork, but I've also hired like loads of non-amazing people. So I think that there's enough VAs now, enough VA groups in Facebook, like you can just type in virtual assistants, that you can probably source one from one of those groups before you go into Upwork. But I highly recommend that you bring someone on customer service, even starting, 2-3 hours a week, because if you're not having compassion for the people and you're getting super irritated and super annoyed, that energy is going to shine through, and you don't want that, right? That's the last thing you want, because it's just your frustration. You don't really mean it. And believe me when I say we all get the same customer service questions. Like, at scale, it's just a lot harder to manage, right? So that is what I have to say on a very surface level about scaling. So let me know your questions, guys. Like, as you're experiencing these business things, let me know. Like, either I'm there with you right now in terms of I'm still growing my team and making sure that I have the right people in the right seats on the bus. I've had to, before I hired Leanne, I had 2 people in her role. I had 2 people in her role, and they didn't work out, so I had to fire them, right? Like, it's just, I'm getting much better at letting people go faster. It's never an easy thing, but it's part and parcel of scaling, right? Scaling your company, scaling your revenue, buying yourself more time freedom, because that's really at the end of the day what this is all about, is putting the right people in the right seats on the right bus so that you have a bus full of people and you can just like chill on the bench and watch the bus go by. Like, at the end of the day, that's the mindset I want you to have. And that's a very hard thing to adopt because you're so in it right now and you're so doing all of the things, and I totally get that. But if you think about it that way, like, I want to bring these people on so that you actually can chill, it's super motivating. So please feel free to ask me your questions. You can either type them in the comments or you can tag me or do whatever. But this is an ongoing conversation as you guys all build your businesses. Frankly, these are the kind of conversations I love to have, because this is like the real nitty gritty stuff. Like, I can teach you how to grow your email list and do a lead magnet, and that's very important. But these are the next level kinds of conversations about customer service and how infuriating it can be and how to mitigate that, right? So I hope you enjoyed spending time with me. I always enjoy spending time with you guys, and we will talk again soon. Good night.